and welcome back to another episode of Debt Nation, where we are busy putting death out of business, and we have Jim Strole here from Raadfest, and this is going to be a really, really cool episode. I'm really excited to talk about Raadfest. I know our viewers have heard a lot about Raadfest, a lot about People Unlimited and Life Extension on the show, but now we actually get to go into the meat and potatoes of those organizations, so really excited for that. But before we cross over to Jim, let's thank our sponsors. Thrivous, you know the deal. You can go from $5 all the way up to $160 worth of free Thrivous. That's geoprotectors and nootropics. The rules are in the description. You know how to do it. Thanks very much, Thrivous. And also thanks to David Kelly's I Am Transhuman for sponsoring this episode. Jim, how are you?
I'm doing great, Steele. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on.
I'm really excited to have you here. You know, like I said in the intro, we do talk about Raadfest a lot. We talk about People Unlimited a lot. We talk about Life Extension a lot. Obviously, here supporting the United States transhumanist-party. That's Chairman Gennady Stolyarov II. Does a fantastic job in the political side, the political innovation of Life Extension. But you're coming in from the other side. The social well-being side and the educational side over there at Raadfest. Jim, just to let the audience know, let's firstly, before we talk about Raadfest, let's go into your history, because you've got a long history with Life Extension going back to the 70s. You know, a very, very extensive history, very dedicated, you know, even in the loneliest parts of some of that history. Do you quickly want to tell the audience about who you are and your story to get to this point?
Okay, well, like you say, Steele, it's a long story, so I'll try to make it as short as possible, so I don't bore anybody too much.
Never.
But actually, I actually, you know, when I was 11 years old, I had my first experience with someone dying that was close to me, my grandmother. And we were very close. She was like a mentor to me in many ways, and always very caring and great person to be around. Very, you know, I'll say humorous and very Irish. But she died, and it was very tough for me because I was actually, you know, as close to her as anybody in the family. And so I asked my mother. I said, gee, I'm. You know, when am I going to see grandmother again? You know, and she could, you know, detect, of course, as mothers do, that I was having, you know, trouble with this, and it was my first experience with anybody dying like this close to me. And she said, you're going to see her in heaven someday when you die. And I thought, I said, that didn't sound too good to me, you know, that concept, when I have to die to go see her. And so I knew right then that something was wrong with that. My own body, you know, you sense as a kid, sometimes you don't have all the filters that sometimes we get as adults. So I said to my mom, I said, you know, why can't we have heaven here on earth? Why do we have to die to go to heaven? And she said, well, that's a good thought. Why don't you pursue that? So that's what, so my mother was a real seeker and very progressive person for her time. So she took me to every new speaker come in town, whether it was around, you know, some science idea of longevity, or those times there was very few. I mean, they weren't even using the word longevity, but, you know, health seminars and you know, I'll say gurus talking about from India, talking about, you know, long life and one thing after another. She'd always take me along. And so when I was 16, I got involved in integral yoga, and integral yoga was the master of integral yoga was called Aurobindo, Sri Aurobindo. And so he was like the Abraham Lincoln of India. He wanted to bring together all the yogis to use what he called their super consciousness to create a super body that would not die. And I thought, wow, that's the first I actually heard somebody speaking on those strong terms, you know. And so I got involved with a teacher here in the Arizona area in the States who was teaching this, and I was very fascinated with it and very excited, and but I couldn't get really all the other, you know, I'll say disciples of this program excited about, you know, living forever. They were more excited about the enlightenment, you know, that was the same problem that Aurobindo had back then. Everybody was into the truth and enlightenment, and he said, let's use our enlightenment for some purpose rather than arguing over who had the most enlightenment or truth. So I had that same issue, and of course that issue is something we face today. Of course, people arguing over who has the most knowledge or the truth, and really, what does it matter? We should be using our knowledge, the information we have, to end sickness, aging, and death. That's where we should actually put it, not in competing with each other. So, the short story again is that in 1972, I started working with some partners who were actually speaking, and one of them I still have. We're still very close, and she's my main partner with People Unlimited, which is People Unlimited is a super longevity community here in Scottsdale. We're the largest of its kind actually in the world, and so. But I met her. We started working together in 1972, and we were speaking on super longevity and immortality. No one's even speaking longevity at that time. So you imagine kind of the not only the looks we got, but the critics that came after us. But we also got a lot of people interested. We would tour United States at that time, and mainly we were invited to speak in churches. I wasn't religious per se at that time. Neither was my partner. I was as a child, but we walked out of that, world. But we were invited to speak in churches because basically a lot of the people in churches were interested in maybe the possibility of, living and not dying. And they were taught that that's a possibility. And of course, we spoke at other venues too, but there was a lot of, religious groups we spoke to. So that was interesting. Out of that, though, we drew quite a good amount of people that were interested in this subject, and we started to create kind of a community here in the Scottsdale area, and we kept moving in that, and for quite some time. And then in 1995, though, we developed this company we have now called People Unlimited, which is specifically dedicated to super longevity and immortality, and we have people involved from all over the world now here in Scottsdale. But then about 5 years ago, this is going to be our 5th Raadfest. We were thinking, we need to broaden out. We need to spread out in the community more and find more people who feel this way. And so we made contact. I started making contact with people through social media and other avenues of the contacts I knew. I started talking to scientists like, Dr. Bill Andrews, Aubrey de Grey, many others that I started making contact with. They introduced me to other people and started pitching this concept to them. And then I talked to Bill Falloon from head of the Life Extension Foundation, and asked him if he would be interested in helping put together this big event. And he loved it. And everywhere I reached out, everybody was excited about it. It was fantastic. It was just like the perfect timing. But everybody I talked to at that time, too, the scientists and so forth, they said, hey, please don't just go create another science event. We're bored at our science events, create something different. So we said, hey, why don't we create like a Woodstock for radical life extension? Something that was festive, fun, and yet really the best science. Bring together the top scientists at age reversal. So that's what we did. And so in 2016 in San Diego, we had our first event. And it was a record-breaking event. We had more people at that event than any other super longevity or radical life extension event had ever had. Now, there's been, as you know, anti-aging events and so forth going on for quite some time. But we're not just about anti-aging. That's part of the, I'll say, building block. We all need to have the best health we can have. But Raadfest is really about age reversal. That's our focus. We are radical in the standpoint. We are out, like you said earlier, to kill death. We are out to stop aging and death. And that's the purpose of Raadfest. We draw, like I said, the best doctors, scientists, thought leaders in the world to this event. And so Aubrey de Grey, he was on our team. And it was funny because, he had, before we did this event in San Diego, he had all kinds of, doubts that it could, happen or we get very many people because historically, any of these events would never draw very many people, but we target it towards the people. That's what made it happen. Instead of targeting it towards scientists, we target it towards the public. Something we said, hey, let's go have fun. Let's dance, let's party, let's have music, and let's have the best science. So that drew in more of the public. So we ended up having close to 1,000 people the first time in San Diego, and Aubrey came up to me and says, "I'll never doubt you again." He says, I'm going to be with you. I'll support you, in building this. And he basically apologized for that, for kind of doubting it before. But he was great. He's a great guy, as you probably know. And he's been a real big help, all the way. So that's how Raadfest started. Okay, Raadfest stands for, it's RAAD Fest, Revolution Against Aging and Death. Okay, in my mind, and I think you know this too, and in your listeners that are savvy to what's going on, we are in a revolution. Okay, right now we are in a revolution against aging and death. Right now, this coronavirus situation we have, it's just one of the many battles we fought as human beings on this planet against disease. It's a battle. Okay, we'll come through this battle. Some won't, unfortunately, and that's sad. But we'll come through this battle. But the question is, will we go back to sleep? Because really, this is a battle, but we really need to win the war. I'm out to win the war against aging and death. In the war against aging and death, and all these other, age-related diseases are going to begin to fall like dominoes. Okay, once we create super immune systems, create gene therapies that regenerate the body, youth the body, biologically de-age the body. I mean, we're in a whole new world here. It's fantastic. But that needs to be, we need to understand as human beings, this is the answer really to what we're even experiencing right now. Is not, washing our hands is great, it's important, social distancing, but we wouldn't have to do all that if we build super immune systems.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is what we can do. We as human beings don't even understand our bodies in that respect. When I say most people don't understand how important it is and that they can build super immune systems. We live at a very low level of immune health, most human beings. Okay. I've been here 71 years. I'm actually better than ever. I practice things that I preach. I use many of the senolytics and the therapies that, are advised by the super longevity community. I'm healthier and stronger than ever. My immune system's stronger than ever. And we can be that way. You do not have to have a weak immune system, no matter how old you get. And this is what we need to change in this world.
Wow, yeah, that's riveting stuff. And it's you've seen a lot of technological change through your life. I was born in '93, so this sort of exponential change is part of my existence. It's a lot's been happening, especially since the Industrial Revolution, electricity,
right.
But it's getting faster and faster and faster, and we are at that tipping point now in 2020. And I think that you explaining how Raadfest. And we will go into the composition of Raadfest because that's very important. And I think a breakdown of Raadfest is very important, especially Rad City and the Raadfest medical side of things and the consumer side of things. This is all very important to the composition. But, when you reach out and it's kind of like everybody sort of reacts in a positive way, it's kind of like that is the definition of an idea that time has come. That's the exact definition of the sort of positive spin, the Midas touch in a positive way, not everything turning to gold in a bad way, gold in a good way. And I think in the age of super connectivity, in the internet, the sharing of ideas, where we do have the ability to congregate in groups from all over the world. I could come to Raadfest. You could have a Raadfest Oceania or a Raadfest Asia or a Raadfest Africa or a Raadfest Europe. In the global or South America, I won't leave those guys out. But, in this global interconnectivity age, we can share ideas faster than ever. We can have this spontaneous serendipity arena, and that's a really important thing of why we get together in community groups like this. It's that serendipity. It's where the AI guy goes and he crosses with the biotech guy and says, well, I know a lot about AI, you know a lot about biotech. I never knew that we could work together against the common enemy that's aging, death, and disease. So that's why this is super important, and this is why they're connecting. And and I think the composition, the aspect of not just another conference, because we've all been to conferences. The commercialized for the lack of a better word, fun environment where you can get engaged, get active, get educated, have a meal, interact with powerful, important intellectual people, and come away with a benefit. Come away from Raadfest knowing that you've actually enhanced yourself and others is really important. And we had Mr. Shoemaker and Susan come on this show straight after a Raadfest event, and they were energized. They were excited. They're watching the show now. Hi, David and Susan. Hope you're doing well. But they were energized. They were excited, and they said they haven't seen anything better like it in their lifetime. It's an idea that's come, and
hi to them also.
they're wonderful people. Really, really enjoyed their support.
They are great people.
But this is the value of Raadfest and People Unlimited. But let's break it down. Let's keep talking about Raadfest. So, how is Raadfest broken down? It's broken down into components. There's different compartments of Raadfest. You know all about Raadfest. How is it broken down?
Yeah. Okay. Well, first of all, the uniqueness of Raadfest is that we don't do breakouts. We're all experiencing what I call the power of togetherness at the same time. In other words, when the main room is going, okay, the exhibit hall is shut. All right. We're all in there together. See, as we've learned and learning more, I think there's more of a wake up right now with a lot of people in the world that we need to pull together. If anything that I hope will come out of this experience here with the coronavirus, more so with humanity, is that how much we needed to work together. Well, that's the whole premise that Raadfest is set upon, how we need to work together. We're all in this together, okay? So we created Raadfest to be that type of event, to where we're in the main room together and everybody's hearing the speakers and we're all participating there. It's a very interactive group. Even this next year, we're going to make it more interactive. And then when the main room is completed and we've done, heard all the expressions there, then the exhibit hall opens. And last year we had over 100 exhibitors. These are top-notch exhibitors with really, we vet them very closely with, therapies and supplements and so forth that are effective. I'm just really proud how that has come together, because we draw the best, and they're very cooperative in the context to close the exhibit hall, and that's not always easy for people who want to sell stuff, but they get the theme. And the first year was a big awkward because many people didn't get that theme. So second year, we just kept saying, hey, we're doing this together. And the benefit of it is then too, everybody's in that room having that same experience. So we're empowered together. And then the exhibit hall, because we don't have other breakouts going on, okay, is more busier than ever. So the exhibitors do, better than, in fact, they come out saying, wow, I've sold more, of my merchandise here and done better here than any other event I've been at. Because not only are our people very proactive in wanting for their health, so, and, there are, most of them are over 50, okay? They have money, they're ready to spend money, okay, on something that's going to help them. So these exhibitors do very well. So that's how it's broke down. It's very, very simple. We also have awesome parties afterwards and dances and a speaker party and what's also that I want to mention that's so great is the speakers just don't come and go, okay? Whether it's Aubrey de Grey or Ray Kurzweil or whoever, they stay, they interact with the people, they come into the exhibit hall, they visit there. So the people who come can actually visit with, the speakers that have moved them or that they actually admire, the different ones, and can actually meet them personally and talk to them. Bill Falloon is great like that. He's the head of Life Extension Foundation. He comes right to the exhibit hall and just visits with everybody he can. So it's just, we're all in it together. And out of that comes a fantastic, I'll say, epiphanies, and ideas for that people can, new thoughts and new ideas and inspiration. I can't tell you the number of doctors and scientists that have come to me and say, wow, thank you for doing this. I met so-and-so, or I met Dr. So-and-so that, he added something to what I'm doing that I didn't quite catch. And I learned something there. Now my business is going better, or we're working together. We came and are creating a partnership together. So all kinds of great collaborations have happened now. That was one of the main purposes of creating Raadfest. So yeah, it's just a spirit of collaboration, a spirit of sharing information, not being tight about it. That's another thing. A lot of these doctors and thought leaders, they come and they go, oh my gosh, I've never seen an environment where there's no bickering. Everybody's sharing information. I'm not used to that. They're used to keeping some of their ideas, under their cloak. It doesn't mean you have to give your trade secrets, but it means that, look, we're out there to do this together. We're after the prize. The prize is ending aging and death. And we all got to keep that in mind. I always say this, and I'm going to repeat it on your show. We're not the enemies. We as human beings are not the enemy. Our enemy is aging and death. We shouldn't be fighting each other. We should be fighting aging and death together. That's our higher purpose that will unite us.
And if you look at the state of the world now with coronavirus, the world is coming together to fight coronavirus. So when the world, the positive thing about the coronavirus is when the world wants to, it can unite and fight a common enemy, the quote unquote invisible enemy. And fight the coronavirus for now, that's very important. I agree. But when you come out of this, like you said at the start, you said we don't want to forget. We don't want to fall asleep at the wheel. We don't want to just fight the coronavirus. We want to fight aging, because if you put aging at the center, you defeat a lot of diseases at once. You actually take fighting diseases seriously, and this is why we talk about a lot of these related subjects on this show. If you want to take fighting disease seriously, you have to put aging at the center of the mandala. Then you take care of a lot of the age-related diseases, which is a lot. It's a lot.
Well said, Steele. Well said.
Yeah, and it's a very, very important. So, Rad City, that is the exhibition hall, is it? The exhibition area?
Yes. Rad City is the exhibition hall. We also have right outside the exhibition hall, right connected with it, as a place where exhibitors and speakers can come in, and it's kind of a secondary hall where people can present their products and so forth right there in the main hall, talk about them some. So it gives people also an opportunity that aren't on the main stage to talk about their product or talk about their company. We don't solicit. We don't encourage or let anybody solicit products, or we want to hear the science on the main stage. We want to hear the facts about what is really going on with the research that's being done. So, but the exhibit hall is where they can talk more about the creation of their products and sell their products.
Great, and some of the great people that come to participate in Raadfest and give speeches and mingle with the community. I just got a list of some of the names here. Some very, very extremely great people. I mean, you're talking about Ray Kurzweil, yourself, Liz Parrish, Dr. Michael D. West. There's some other people here. Natasha Vidamore, Dr. Brad Thompson, Suzanne Summers. There's some really, really incredible people here, and that's just previously featured, and obviously it's getting better and better every year because as the word spreads, and you're not in competition with traditional science conferences or anything like that. This is a whole new idea. The scientists who come to these events can still go to their own conferences in their own specialized units and stuff like that. That's not the idea. The idea about this is mainly to get the general public to into an environment where they can have fun, get educated, and learn a lot about life extension and unite around the science against aging and disease and death. And actually, the general public will bring their own resources and tools and information ideas to the fore, because we need every person we can get. And I've heard you previously in a previous talk you gave, say we need to get into a coliseum. And actually, one of the doctors that I was talking to, he's in Italy, and he literally said, why don't we use a coliseum? He knows a thing or two about coliseums in it being Italian. And he's, this is before I saw it. So I just thought it was funny there because, I agree that this could level up to the point where you do need a coliseum or some sort of stadium, because we need every person we can in this fight against aging, death, and disease. And I think the world is really starting to clue on to the disease part of it. That's something with this COVID-19. They're actually starting to actively think about disease again. It's not the easiest to get people to think about disease. Disease, usually, unless people are sick themselves, then they will think about disease, or they know someone in their life. But then as soon as they start talking about disease, it's complicated because it's either very sciencey and they have to talk to specialists and it's depressing, or it goes straight into policy where they start arguing about money and how much the healthcare budget is and how much GDP do you spend on healthcare and this country versus that country. So people get railroaded into two very either boring and depressing, or money and how they can't afford it, and both of those subjects are not very fun. But something like what you're doing here actually brings a little levity to the subject and actually can lift all boats and say, no, this doesn't have to be a depressing subject. Let's talk about the technologies that are bringing all these costs down so that the policy aspect can almost be eliminated. We can almost stop talking about how much money we have to spend.
Exactly.
Let's get rid of that subject altogether. Let's focus on the science side, and let's say actually the science side is advancing quickly as well. And how do we utilize those technologies, and how do we make that go even faster? And the community needs to learn and be educated on this fact. But it's not even that. It's on the premise that with the empowerment of the individual becomes the empowerment of the group, becomes the empowerment of the whole. And how do you grow that group so we can empower the whole faster? And I think that's exactly what Raadfest is attempting to do. And it's beautiful to see. It's beautiful to see, and it's one of these entrepreneurial moments in time where the idea has come, and you've got great leadership, and great people involved. It's just amazing. Thank you for your efforts in this.
Yeah, thank you, Steele. Thank you. But you said that very well. Very well.
So what are these other? So let's talk about something else. Let's talk about People Unlimited. What is People Unlimited?
Well, People Unlimited, like I said, my partner Bernadine Brown and I formed People Unlimited in 1995 with the purpose. We worked for another company before that, another organization, and there was another company that promoted super longevity, but it wasn't everything that we wanted to create ourselves. So we kind of segued away from that, and we created in 1995 People Unlimited with the purpose of creating a community of like-minded people to support each other in the education and the inspiration and the connection that it takes to create a super longevity, I'll say, community, and spread that throughout the world. So that's our purpose in that, and it's been really great. It's been, like everything else, a challenge to always get people, like you said a few moments ago, people always don't like to look at the human condition, sickness or disease, and that they need to know that not thinking about it or looking at it is not going to make it go away. Okay, we need to be able to talk about. We need to be able to talk about these very important, I'll say, acts of, whether it be from the environment, whatever we face that is attacking us, that's killing our bodies. We need to be able to look at it so that we can really know how to change that paradigm. Because, without looking at it, we're not going to be able to have the wake up we need, even in our bodies, to see how horrible it is, because we adapt to it. We have adapted to these things like these viruses. And I said a couple of days ago at my People Unlimited event, we're doing it online now, by the way. We usually meet in person, but we're doing virtual meetings now. But I said, I'm tired of, diseases and aging, all this stuff that we've been terrorized by since the beginning of humankind. I said, it's time we wake up and never go to sleep again and begin to actually change this paradigm, and we can do it together. So that's the message I said, and this is the message I feel so deeply about. It's why we created People Unlimited, because we wanted to create, a conversation, a deeper conversation. Now, the people that are involved with us in People Unlimited are very dedicated, very true to the cause. They're the driving force behind, as far as volunteers go, to help at Raadfest, and they're very dedicated people. But I'd like to see a tipping point of people. That's why I talked about the Coliseum, because, we want to reach that tipping point that actually explodes this consciousness and this reality of life into the world deeper. And this is what we need. It's one thing to talk about it, that we all love to do, and it's beautiful. I thank you for being the person you are and having a show like this that gets this message out more. You're a doer, You're just not sitting back talking about it. You're doing, you put forth action to help create a arena that people can hear this kind of new, important, and vital life-saving information. So that's what I want to do with creating a Coliseum full of people, let it explode into the world of life. I mean, this is the, it's exciting. There's nothing like having people together who are so excited about living, and you can feel it in your body. You can feel the difference when they're there in person together. The dynamics of that is so great. It's very powerful for the human immune system.
Yeah, and super immune system. I like that idea as well. You mentioned that, by the way. But yeah, and the thing is, with advancing technology and the advancing information about life, it's becoming more and more exciting, and there's more and more to live for all the time.
Yes.
We're going to go to space soon. That's incredibly exciting. We're going to probably have the ability to terraform Mars, and so you'll have a whole another Earth to explore. How cool is that? But we're also going forward with VR and this virtual reality stuff, and so you can go and explore new worlds. There's a whole host of things we talk about all the time here in the show that is coming up, and that it's so exciting to live longer and healthier. Why would you sit back, relax, and accept aging and decay? It's not fun. It's not cool. We want to reverse biological aging, and we want to stay healthy and be healthier. That's mentally, that's physically, that's in other ways as well. So that we can enjoy the fruits of the future, and with advanced technology, the future is looking cooler. I mean, we've got automation coming down the pipeline, so people won't be tied to very rudimentary tasks or laborious tasks in the future. So you'll have more time to enjoy the things and the people that you want to enjoy them with. And if you are healthier, and you are, biologically, but you don't age biologically as much, you'll be healthier and stronger and fitter, and you can enjoy the future as a 25-year-old rather than biologically, rather than how people think about it in a linear fashion, where it's diminishing returns, and it doesn't have to be like that.
Exactly.
So because that's one of the big problems with mental health. People say, I get old, everything starts to wear out. Why would I want to live through that? Well, that's the whole thing. If we can start to manage that process, you'll be stronger, fitter. People are already stronger, fitter, happier, healthier.
Yeah.
And you know this very well from the Industrial Revolution with sanitation, antibiotics, the emerging, knowing about more and more about diet, the diet, and health supplements, and good eating, good exercise regimes. People are already living much longer, much healthier. People aren't even quote unquote sure what they want to do with their life until they're 30, 35. That age keeps shifting. In pre-industrial era, you were dead by 30. You better have had thought what you wanted to do, where you didn't really have a choice, but when you were 14, 15, 16. I mean, this age has already moved up a good 10, 15, 20 years. Education is becoming a lot more fundamental, and so people aren't graduating until they're 30, 35, not getting a real job until they're 40. It keeps shifting forward because human health and human progression is getting better and better and better, which means the human capital is going up. So it's kind of interesting that this is all happening in real time, and yet people aren't yet awake to that fact because maybe they don't study history, maybe they don't see themselves in their place in time and space or something, but it's happening in real time. And but that's all irrelevant because if we can get your idea out there to more people, then life becomes more and more and more exciting or at any point. And biological aging becomes less and less a thing, which means you get to go out and explore more and more of the universe, do more and more things, meet more and more people, have more and more reasons to live. But you're doing it not as an aging person who gets harder to do all the time. It gets easier. It gets easier and gets easier and gets easier as you acquire more knowledge, and more friends and more friendships, and your mental health starts to improve because you don't have to worry about. You don't have these problems of worrying about getting cancer because aging is cured, stuff like that. So your mental health is actually improving. So everything starts to shift in a positive direction. Everything starts to move in that positive direction, just as it already has done for people who are now 35. Like that's what happened. That's already what happened. People say, "Oh, I'm young. I'm 25." Yeah, you got 5 more years. If you were 200 years ago, you got 5 more years to live. But we don't have that problem anymore. The average lifespan is 80 something, 80 point something, and it's moving up all the time. So this is incredibly important what you're doing at this point in time. But people don't realize as well. That's what I'm trying to get at. Is the mental shift. That if these revelations come true, these scientific revelations of curing biological aging, the mental shift that happens, all the arguments against life extension just wither away. They just flutter away because your mental health will improve as all of the accessibility and enjoyability of life enhances automatically.
Yeah, you just described a beautiful world that, why we're doing what we're doing. Yeah, exactly. Because, I always say, look, we have so been stuck in survival as human beings, we don't really even know who we are. We need time. We need extended time to understand the depth of even, I'll say, the true abilities we have as human beings to create. Now, by this new world we're talking about, there's an opportunity for real creation. And some people say, and you probably get it too, they say it to me, they say, "Oh, I'm bored. It would be so boring, to live long." I said, I don't have a boring moment. I mean, for me, they're still looking from mortal eyes. Their life is, that just tells me they have a boring life now because they're caught in that trap, that paradigm of death, the consciousness of death. It's a program. And you just go down with it more and more. So like you said about sickness, I mean, yes, it is depressing to feel yourself, deteriorating, or to see somebody you love deteriorating. No wonder there's so much depression. But what people don't realize, what's behind this is this terror and this fear and this anxiety of death that's in our bodies. Once we get rid of that, and really, you can take on a mindset like you are already, and we are together, a mindset that takes us to the future now. We don't have to wait for, I'll say, everything to manifest that we want to actually to adopt this way of thinking now, this way of being. So I'm actually living I'll say, a super longevity lifestyle. I think that way. I eat that way. I walk that way. I'm not thinking of going down. I'm not living in that paradigm. I'm not struggling for survival. I've taken myself out of survival. And that's so vital for all of us as human beings to even accomplish what we want to accomplish now. It's like I always say, align your mind with the mission. All right? Where do we want to go? At NASA, when they were going to go to the moon, they asked the team leader, they said, "Hey, do you think we're going to make it?" And he said, "I'm already there. I'm already there." And that's what I'm saying about our endless life, our immortality. I'm not saying everybody has to decide to live forever. Live as long as you want to live, for that matter. But Jesus, we need to give the damn opportunity for it to be there to live as long as you want. Yeah. I would suspicion that the longer you live, the happier you're going to be, because you're going to be breaking through all those barriers, right? And you're going to you're going to open your life up in a way that you never opened it up before, the possibilities.
Yeah, and if you want to, I haven't actually seen the instructional, the instruction, but I saw an ad on YouTube. It's one of these ads that you get an instructor and famous people to teach you stuff. It's very cool. But yeah, he just said in the ad, when we're going to the moon, we don't fly with our fingers crossed. We don't launch from the launch pad with our fingers crossed because, like you said, we're already there.
Exactly.
You have to be an optimist to want to go to space. But That's the other thing, if you're out there and you say, oh, I really like to go to Mars, and you're a risk taker, and you would like to put your, because you're bored. I mean, then if you can live as long as you want, then take the risk and put your life on the line to go to Mars if that's your thing. But the other thing is, or wherever you want to go and be an explorer, go and do Star Trek stuff. It's you can live as long as you want, but also if you're a risk taker and you want to take that challenge, you'll have as long as you want to put your life in your hands and go and explore the universe. That's fine with me. If that's your personal sovereignty, that's your choice. I wouldn't stop you, but
No.
but like we were saying before, it's being civilized as well, because your biological consumption-based model is consume as much resources as you can, this sort of caveman hoard, consume, and then pass those genes and those resources on to the next generation, and then die. But actually, you have to, if you want to say you're quote unquote civilized, you have to use your conscious mind to overcome that biological trajectory, because that's what biology wants you to think. And if you think that way, you're part of the great mass that that goes with that biology. But actually, you can overcome that with your own conscious thought. And I think it's more empowering when you realize that you have sovereignty over your own biology. You don't have to let your biology dictate to you, that you have to get sick, you have to get old, and you have to die at some point. This is not. This is something that is conquerable, and you have to just use your conscious imagination and your imagination about the future. And you have to go to Raadfest, and you have to meet the wonderful people, the optimists and the energetic people, and the people who are doing the little hard yards, in order to realize what we're saying is actually true. There's one other thing here: life extension, the science of a healthier life. What's that?
The science of a healthier life. Well, of course there is, as you know, the Life Extension Foundation. Bill Falloon and their organization is actually doing fantastic research to actually help extend life in every way they can. And then there's a lot of other organizations, of course, that are dedicated to that now. But the science of it is, I think, amazing, if that's what you're, speaking of at this time. But because, it's a science based on profit, I'll say, from life rather than death. Okay. There's so much science out in this world still that is profiting from death, as you know. The pharmaceutical companies and what we deal with and all that. And there's some good, not saying there's not some good drugs that do some good work, but most of the time, the extension of life is so without real health. So many of these people, they call it a silver tsunami. They're on 8, 9, 10 different drugs, all kinds of negative side effects from those. So they're not really living a quality life. So the science of actually anti-aging or super longevity is to actually propel the whole, I'll say, network of science into life profiting business, where we're actually giving people the science that can actually build their bodies and not tear it down, bring about a new, I'll say, whole possibilities of biological or difference of biological building of the body that hasn't been done. Where we can do gene therapies, for example, I was talking about earlier, that can actually lengthen telomeres and begin to reverse aging. Instead of fighting all these diseases one by one with some pharmaceuticals that actually then just destroy the body on another level, we want to build the body. So super longevity science is about building the body all the time and using its own immune system, you might say, to actually strengthen the immune system to where we can not be so vulnerable and possibly even be invincible to some of these viruses or diseases that we face in this world today. that's the world that I see, and it's so exciting to actually be able to see this already starting to happen in the arena with Raadfest, that we see some of these scientists and doctors what they're coming up with. Craig Fahey he's now got data reversing the thymus 2.5 years. Now that's going to be he's going into another study this year on that same idea, but it's going to even be more powerful. And then the cascading effects of these therapies in the immune system is really a beautiful thing to see, because people begin then to feel revived in their bodies, and they're not taken down or burdened with the toxic load that they've done with so many drugs they've taken. So we have people living longer, but they're not living in great health. So what we want to do is change that. When we're talking about super longevity, we're talking about getting better all the time, living with vitality and vigor. And like you said earlier, possibly living at, you'd be 90, 100 years old, but be biologically 25. I mean, that's something, that's real stuff. And this is what we're really after. This is the core. This is the core of where we need to go as human beings and where we can go.
Yeah, we talk about disruptive technologies all the time on the show. A lot of these guys down here on the support we're supporting down here are disruptive technology innovators. And, curing aging, like you said, you hinted at with the pharmaceutical companies, etc. Curing aging is the big medical disruptive technology. It will disrupt a lot of business models. From hospitals to palliative care to funeral homes to a lot. Cancer, the cancer guys. I mean, a lot. So there's you can see how there might be a bit of a coalition there to play down the telomerase and telomeres idea that Dr. Bill Andrews and others are so passionate about, that that on the end of the tips of the chromosomes. But this is why Raadfest is so important, because as a community effort, and I think this is the big point with Raadfest as well. Obviously, every component is a beautiful mechanism, but the actual just getting the information out there into people's heads so that they know the propaganda when they see it, so that they say when they get that bill from their in America, you have a terrible healthcare system. You go into you stub your toe, you got to mortgage your house. It's terrible, but when they get that bill, they can go, hang on, isn't this something I heard from my friend who went to that thing, that this is actually curable, that I don't have to pay this $200,000 bill here? What's this all about? And that's the seed that starts to wake people up and say, hang on, there's something not quite right here with the system. There are mechanisms to defeat these diseases that I actually have. And I think the information spreading amongst the public that there's a disruptive technology, there's a disruptive movement out there that's actually growing in size, growing in pace, growing in energy, that's optimistic, it's hopeful, it's built on a scientific, educated base. It's not, it's not just we're not talking crystals. We're not talking, I don't know if any crystals will help, but we're not talking crystals. We're talking very hard edge science, or, and doctors and very hard stuff. This is the thing. It's not easy to be a doctor. It's not easy to stand on the stage and deliver some of the genius that they pop out there on the PowerPoint or whatever. This is not easy stuff. This is millions of dollars of research, tens of millions of hours of people's lives invested, and dedicated people who have day in, day out, worked hard to achieve that PowerPoint right there. But the knowledge that can proliferate from that can go out into the community, where one person comes along, they take that information back to their household, they spread it around their household. This knowledge is so important to the disruptive community, to disrupting aging, and to disrupting the business models that 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 profit or that feed or that that's really bad to say, because some of these guys are doing good work in trying to cure cancers and stuff, and we wouldn't want to downplay the good actors in there. But there are definitely some bad players that definitely like to make a buck off people suffering and their ill health and their psychological worry, etc. And that's really bad. And that's why the information needs to get out there. That's why Raadfest is important. That's why you're important. That's why the Transhumanist-Party is important. That's why, people who are saying, even if they don't really understand, they just say, hey, I heard this thing, we can cure cancer. It's something. And then people say, oh, yeah, but no, I mean, really cure cancer. I mean, get rid of it forever. This is why it's important. The information spreading is just vital. And, I'd love to see you more on TV, more on mainstream news, more on this is one of the things that we've been pushing for here on the show, trying to get any of these people onto big networks, just to at least a couple of times just spread that information out there, that there's a big disruptive movement that's really serious about putting death out of business.
Yeah, well, that's why we drew over 30, well, actually it was like over 40 media outlets from all over the world to Raadfest, which, HBO, CBS, London came in and the channels over there. So that was good. But you're right. That's what we want to do, is get more and more of this exposure. But the more public you bring in, the more people you get, the more that draws attention to it. And that's why we want to create that tipping point. That's really why I want the Coliseum filled with people. Because you got a mass amount of people, it draws attention, right, to the cause. But, having said what you said about I think it's really true. There's people doing good work in the cancer research, but we don't need, the point being, look, there's problems right now. People, sick with cancer. That needs to be addressed, and I have no problem with that. But all the money doesn't need to go to that. All the money, that there needs to be a greater distribution of money now to what's called age reversal. To curing aging, because in the meantime, but what you're saying is there's some real, I think, genuine people in that field, but also we're also going down a track that is going to be endless. We're never going to just, I'll say, even if we cure cancer,
it's just playing whack-a-mole, and that's
Well, even they say, the statistics are that if you cure cancer today, you're going to increase lifespan maybe 2.5 years. Okay, we need much more than that. That's what it is. So we need people who are taking care of the people like that now. That's part of the base of good health. But we also need, a lot of money now going to this research in age reversal and anti-aging, so that we can get where we need to get there. I mean, that's no one has to lose in any way. This can be a win-win, for everybody. I mean, these corporations who I'll say, like you said earlier, who are greedy or whatever, they have children too. They have loved ones too. Those people die. Okay. What I'm talking about today is something for everybody. It's a win-win. Let's begin to work together to really solve this problem at the very root, and let's quit just picking leaves. So just curing cancer is like picking a leaf off the tree. Okay. We do it. Like every other, there's another disease will come. We've proven that. Here we got coronavirus. No one knew this was coming. No one knew about. Well, we're going to see plenty of those until we can get to the core of what aging or what disease is, and it's connected to there's always bacteria around. But when we develop super immune systems, when we develop bodies that aren't so susceptible to that, more youthful, keeping our immune system strong, we will be able to fight these bacteria off and these diseases without all the efforts we've had to put into it to now, and all the stress and all the terrorism of it. I can't tell you how done I am with it.
No, I totally agree, and I totally agree. It's a beautiful thing to see. You're talking there. The United States Transhumanist Party advocating against existential risks as well. They're doing a great job, and people get bored with me of saying it, but I'm going to keep saying it until people are bored, even more bored with it. But it comes down to preventative policies,
yes.
PP. Yes. If you can get preventative policies in place, we can start taking action on things before they happen. That would mean 10 years ago or 20 years ago, you would have been preparing for coronavirus. And then you wouldn't have had coronavirus. You see what I mean? If you take action against things in the future, like aging, then you don't have to deal with the negative consequences when that comes around. And it's not a discriminatory disease or medical problem, as Dr. Albright Gray calls it. I call it a disease, but it's not discriminatory. Everybody gets it. You're all going to get it. If you think you're an invincible person, big news to you, newsflash, it's non-discriminatory. So, we're all going to go through this together, unless we do something about it, like Raadfest is telling us, or People Unlimited, or Life Extension. .io or whatever, a whole coalition of great organizations and great people who are now coming together. But it's all about preventative policy, so that, because it's nobody thinks about aging, death, or disease until they get aging, death, or disease. Then suddenly they worry about it, and I think by the time you get something, either you get sick, you die, or you get very old, it's too late. Then it's too late. So why wait? Why wait? That's just silly.
Why wait?
This silly human primitive. He poked me with a stick. Now I react. Well, why didn't you, build a wall and keep that person? Or whatever. Preventative policy, and that's the same thing.
Yeah.
Why don't we keep these diseases away from us? Why don't we keep aging away from us? Why don't we keep sickness and illness away from us? And then after that fact, decide what you want to do with this thing called life, and don't harm others, and don't do the libertarian principle and non-aggression. But after that, start thinking about life and thinking about civil society and all these other factors.
Yeah.
Not that won't. I mean, everybody thinks about that anyway, so that's going to be something very normal for people to continue to think about. But anyway,
one thing I just wanted to conclude on for myself is that, and a lot of people don't think about or talk about too much, but is that when we begin to break through this, what I call the death barrier, and we begin to live longer lives, we're going to increase the value of human life. All right. And, and when we see that we can live these long, expansive lives, automatically we're going to value ourselves more, and we're going to value other people more. We'll have a lot less tendency to take our own life or somebody else's. Right now, the value of human life is so low, really. Okay. We live here it's very low. And so we justify dying for our country. We justify dying for everything around us, sacrifice ourselves. Well, this is so wrong. When we shouldn't be sacrificing ourselves. Death of anybody never accomplishes anything. We need to bring forth life, greater life in our own bodies and with each other. But that's not going to happen until the value of human life is so great. And that's what I'm so excited about too, about extending lifespans, is we'll create a world that will begin to value, have a deeper, naturally, it just happen organically, a deeper value for ourselves and one another. And we'll begin to put our value on our life rather than all the things we put our value on. Right now, people find their value in symbols of immortality. Money is a symbol. Their legacy they leave, it's another symbol of immortality. Everybody really wants to live forever. They just don't know it yet, okay? But in their bodies, they want to. They create symbols of immortality. But I'm talking about creating the real immortality, and that's that you and I and other people literally not dying. That's the legacy I want to leave. I'm not out to leave money or a statue of myself somewhere that Jim helped bring immortality into the world. I don't want an arrow on my back. I'm not a pioneer for an arrow on my back. So the real legacy we all can leave is create a value of human life and living that we've never seen before. And then we'll have a peace on this earth that will pass the understanding. There'll be a peace here that we've never even known even been able to grasp, because we've been so terrorized by this death consciousness.
It's so a beautiful point. And, at the beginning of civilization, they used to build pyramids as, symbols of transitioning to the afterlife, or we were here, we were a civilization and we were here. They built something, tombs and things to say we were here. But now we can flip that on the head and say, actually, we didn't need to build this stuff. We built it as a symbol to life, to the continuing existence of us and ourselves, so that we can appreciate our own structures, not just saying we know we're going to die and let's build a pyramid in order to etch into time that we were here. You know, so this is a beautiful point, and it goes through time, and we could maybe flip the beginning of civilization and where we are now on its head. So that we don't have to. So we live in the 21st century. Everything seems to be on its head now. So let's do that in the life arena as well. I totally agree. Totally love it. You're a great person, and keep it up.
Thank you.
And
thank you. You too.
We'll keep talking to people about Raadfest here on the show. Because it's very important. By the way, I'll shout out to Charlie Cam, because Charlie Cam comes on and he always tells us how his Raadfest experience is. So that's really good. We really appreciate Charlie Cam.
He's great. He's great.
Yeah, absolutely. He's fantastic. And he's big in the transhuman world, transhumano, and doing all the transhuman South America, Ray Kurzweil, obviously, all that stuff. Fantastic. So, big shout out to Charlie Cam too. You'd probably appreciate that.
Hi, Charlie.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and you stay safe. You self-isolate. This is it's not a joke, the coronavirus thing. It's a real thing.
No.
We don't have super immune systems yet, so you just stay safe until we get the all clear or whatever. Do whatever you need to do. But I'm wishing you being safe and all that. So that's fantastic. And thanks for coming on Debt Nation as well, because I really appreciate that a lot. You're a very good guest, and you're doing a very, very good project. And hello from Chairman Gennady Stolyarov as well, and others at the Transhumanist-Party who really appreciate you, and thank you for going on his shows, and he appreciates you.
Yeah, well, great. Thank you very much for having me on, and I appreciate all the work of the Transhumanist-Party. Some of these guys that come to Raadfest, the transhumanists that spoke there, have really done a great job, and I love the work they're doing, and we have a real collaboration together. So we're all, like I say, doing this together, and I deeply appreciate everybody's work.
Coming from every angle. Unlike the policy
every angle. That's right. I always say we need the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, whoever we can get in there, right, to fight this battle.
Yeah. We were saying on the last show, you see with the coronavirus response, you've got a whole of government approach to things. Well, what we need is a whole of humanity approach. We need a whole of humanity approach where everybody with all their skill sets and everything that they can offer and throw it into this war, because this is the big war. This is tough,
Yes,
Raadfest is fantastic, but like you said, we need a stadium of people. We need a country of people. We need a European Union of people. Maybe we need a United States of people. Actually, how about we just get everybody in this together and we all work together towards a united goal?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, thank you so much again.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Thanks for coming on Debt Nation. Thanks for watching Debt Nation. I'm Steel Archer. That's Jim Strole. Check out Raadfest.com if you want to find out more of what we're talking about and all the great people who go to Raadfest.com. And you can get a whole bunch of you can get tickets and stuff. And keep up to date with Raadfest.com to find out what's going on in 2020.
Right. Fantastic. Thanks again.
Thank you.